up? My name's Erica America, Erica Anderson actually, but sometimes I confuse that and just go with my Twitter name. It's so good to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's incredible to be a part of this event. So first disclaimer, I'm not a developer, and I'm not going to talk a whole lot about Twitter, but I do want to tell you guys a little bit about my story and how I made my way to Twitter, because it wasn't a straight line, and I actually never expected to end up at Twitter. I really graduated college with an intense desire to change the world, as many of you do, in the space of news and media. So I'm from Indiana. I heard some Midwesterners earlier. Can I get another shout out? Awesome, it's so good to be here with you. I grew up in Indiana. I went to Indiana University School of Journalism. I graduated and I moved straight to Washington, D.C. I thought that was the perfect city for me. I came out, which was incredible, and I loved the speech earlier about how important it is to be out and open and authentic, because that definitely was a gift and helped me to actually just get where I am today. I graduated, I moved to D.C., and I wanted to break into news. Like, that's what I cared about. Newsrooms were beginning to change. Social media was at the forefront. People were starting to ask questions about how that could be used in news to improve it. And I just wanted to break in. So my talk today is going to be 3 things I learned along the way that helped to get me to where I'm at. And I do hope that some of this is helpful and maybe takes some things you've been thinking about and really emphasizes or maybe gives you the guts to go for it. The first thing I want to talk about is the finding and enlisting mentors. The way I look at it is I had 3 different types of mentors, and I continue to today. The first type is that person who just comes in and out of your life very quickly, and they teach you a new skill. And you have to be open to it. Jason Novak was a guy I met. He was a developer at WAMU at the time, and it's 2007, and he said, "Do you have a blog?" And I said, "Blog? No, I don't." And I was a little bit fearful, because I felt a little intimidated. I'm not tech savvy. I didn't think I was. And he actually has helped me. I had him over one night, and we shared a few beers, and he taught me how to set up my first blog. And that became my platform for beginning to have conversations about journalism and citizen journalism and whatnot. That was the same year that I got hired to work for MTV News. They were applying, basically taking applicants to hire 51 people to cover the 2008 election from a mobile-first perspective. I had one guy tell me, "You'll never get it. DC is going to be the most competitive." And I was like, "Screw you, I'm going to apply anyways." And I got it. And one of the things that I learned was how important it is to have mentors who really know your field very deeply. And so one of my mentors became Helen Thomas. Yeah. Helen, actually, the night I met her, I didn't know who she was. It's so embarrassing. And I Googled her and read her Wikipedia page and was like, it was unbelievable. Helen, for those of you who don't know, she was the first woman in the White House press corps. She totally was just at the front of the lines, went to Washington, D.C. not long after Pearl Harbor, was truly in an environment where women were not accepted, and pursued her way to the top. She covered 10 presidents, sat in the front row, and is the reason that so many of us in media have a seat at the table. She was one of them, one of the group. And what I loved about Helen is that she let me ask stupid questions. And there are no stupid questions, but I felt so comfortable with her asking about the industry, asking about the wire services, the way that they used to work, asking about how news used to break, asking about what it was like when Kennedy was assassinated and she was on the other line of the phone, the news being dictated to her from Dallas, Texas. And so it's so important to find a mentor, someone you trust, you look up to, you admire, who you can actually get together with, have coffee, prepare notes, prepare questions, and just ask them things about what it was like or what it's like today or challenges you're facing in your career. And she definitely helped me to do that. This is Helen when she was a little bit older than me, interviewing President Kennedy. The next types of mentors I think are so important are your network of peers. And these are pictures of women that helped me in Washington, who helped give me opportunities, encouraged me. We really created a community on Twitter. Each of them are entrepreneurs in their own right and are doing very well in different cities across the country. And whether you find your network on Twitter or on GitHub or at Lesbians Who Tech, it's so important to have each other and to encourage each other. And I'm so grateful I've been I've been able to tap into that and continue to, even today. The second lesson I learned was to be humble and confident and find that right balance. You know, right out of college, I think so many of us in this generation are just like, hey, I got it all figured out. I know how to do social media, or I know how to bridge the gap. I want to just run circles around folks before me. If you don't agree with that, I'm telling my truth. I was so excited, but I also had to realize that you get more bees with honey, right? You really have to acknowledge that as much as you bring to the table, you're going to get 2 times back from the people above you, the people who have been there before you. I went on to New York City to work for Katie Couric in 2010. And this is actually after I started to work for her. I was in her office. And I want to show this picture because it reminded me of my interview with her. I was so nervous. The head of PR at CBS News said that they were hiring someone to help Katie understand and to really dive into social media. He thought I'd be perfect. So he got me an interview with her. I walked into that office and met her. I was so nervous. She clearly wasn't. And we sat down, and she looked at my resume, and I could tell it was just like too much information. And I knew I had an instant to sell myself. I had an instant to get back to why I was there and why I wanted to work for her. And so I went back to my true north. My true north was how much I care about journalism and the future of journalism, and journalists understanding the new tools so that they can connect with audiences, they can compel audiences to compare about news and what matters in their community, and they can help quell the misinformation that sometimes spreads so quickly online. And so I went back, and I ended up getting the job, and I worked for Katie, and I had a really successful tenure there, teaching her about social, helping her team understand social. And while I was doing that, I was in New York City, and I was actually happy. I was comfortable being there. But lo and behold, Twitter contacted me 3 years ago when there was a small media team, 3 people there, and they said, "Would you like to work at Twitter?" And I ended up saying, yes, why not? And so I went out there, and my third lesson is go for the Pulitzer. Now, the Pulitzer to me is this award. I love finding out who wins it every year because it's an award not just based on having amazing skills, being able to execute, being able to follow your nose, and just being at the top of your game in a field, but it has so much to do with integrity. And the thing that I've learned over my time is that whenever I'm lost, whenever I don't know what to do, I just have to work on the projects, I have to work with the people that I believe matter and that are driven by passion. So over the things that I've worked on at Twitter, that's really has been the core thing. As it was mentioned, I helped start Twitter for Newsrooms, which ended up creating other media resources that we've shipped to help journalists and other folks in the field understand how to use Twitter. I had the opportunity to talk to a BBC journalist a few years ago, and I said, "Paul, what's a way that we can help you guys in the field do more of what you need to do, which is tell stories from foreign lands?" And he said, "Well, Erica, we actually, it's impossible for us to tweet from war zones in some situations because we don't have phones. We only have satellite phones." And so I took that and I brought it to some engineers, and a few months later we ended up shipping long codes for satellite phones so that journalists and human rights advocates can tweet from far-off places. As I mentioned, Twitter for Newsrooms and what that was and why it was important to do was just trying to offer a service to people, and that's really what drove me. And then the last thing that I'm really proud of, but the reason I bring this up is because sometimes there are things we do that we're not asked to do. Sometimes we just believe in an idea and just go for it. And that was this project that I worked on for a few years, where I had this idea that Twitter was this wire service, that things were breaking on Twitter, but it was so difficult for journalists to find that and to verify it and to source it. And things were just disrupted. So I started going to office hours of Jack and Dick and different people in the office. I started explaining to them this idea that we could help find a company and help to build a tool that enabled journalists to find information faster and to verify it quicker. And so a few months ago, we actually announced through a partner this new tool that is now being built and developed through the ecosystem for journalists. It's really exciting. And a project that really just an entrepreneurial idea and spirit, and then now a lot more people are bringing it to life. So that's my talk. My 3 things are always find and enlist mentors, be teachable, be humble and be confident, strike that balance, and then go for the Pulitzer, have integrity at all that you do. Thank you very much.